Pretty much immediately after the Styrian Grand Prix, Toto Wolff admitted to the public that Mercedes have stopped developing their 2021 car in favour of 2022. According to Valtteri Bottas, the advantage to Red Bull is 3 to 4 tenths per lap already, and with Mercedes now giving up on 2021, it seems unlikely that that advantage is gonna shrink. Essentially, this means that Mercedes have written off the 2021 championship completely, which may come as a surprise to many of their fans. Red Bull have now won 4 races in a row as well, which will no doubt rub salt into the wounds of the Silver Arrows, especially for Lewis Hamilton, who will have to wait at least another year to claim a record-breaking 8th Drivers' Championship. Now, we're all painfully aware of how dominant Mercedes have been up until this year, so it may be refreshing for a lot of you to hear this news, but unfortunately for you people, this switch in development will place Red Bull on the back foot for 2022, unless they too settle for stopping work this year. However, this isn't the only decision that Mercedes have had to consider this year, so in today's video I wanted to examine the true complexity of the situation they're in, and possibly convince you that it isn't as simple as you think. So, let's get into it, shall we? So I've already mentioned the obvious explanation as to why Mercedes have given up development, which is that they're going to focus on winning championships in 2022 and beyond. But I also perceive this decision as Mercedes backing away from a fight. The fact of the matter is that Mercedes giving up this early will allow Red Bull to do the same, but because Mercedes did it a tiny bit earlier, they can now blame any bad results on the fact they haven't had as much development on their car. Not to mention, throwing everything into a championship which won't bear any long-term benefits is sort of like beating a dead horse, especially given the fact that Mercedes began the season with a fairly sizable disadvantage to Red Bull thanks to the regulations. That's not to say that Mercedes wouldn't have given it their best shot up until now, and that corresponded with Lewis Hamilton leading Max Verstappen with 3 wins to 1 after the Spanish Grand Prix. In fact, it was only last weekend that Verstappen overtook Lewis Hamilton in terms of wins, so it would be unfair to say that Red Bull are dominating this year. That said, Red Bull did have an advantage of 37 points going into Austria, and that could have been a factor that swayed Mercedes' decision to give up so early, but ultimately it seemed like they were running from a fight. The disappointing thing about this decision from a fan's perspective is that not only have Mercedes denied us a proper championship fight for the remainder of this year, but they'll have such an advantage next year that we'll be denied a championship fight then as well. At least, that's what I think anyway. I can't know for sure. Of course, no fans complaining will be able to sway Mercedes' decision, but it is of course disappointing to see them sacrificing what could have been a really spicy season. Regarding the point I just made about Mercedes not getting any rewards from this season, it doesn't exactly help them that they had the unfavourable concept for the slightly changed regulations, but again, I don't think that should have warranted giving up within just 8 races. Now, I think I've said all there is to say about Mercedes' decision to give up on 2021, so let's consider some of the other things affecting them this year, namely the driver situation. Valtteri Bottas' seat is rumoured to be under threat from George Russell. Again. And if those rumours are true, then it could mean that George Russell will be stepping up to partner Lewis Hamilton in 2022. At first, this may seem like a no-brainer decision, with Valtteri seemingly out of confidence and George Russell running in or around the points all year, even being on track to finish 7th or 8th in Austria before he was again hit with his infamous luck. Russell even beat Bottas in a straight fight at the Sakir Grand Prix, before being shafted by tyre issues twice. Therefore, this would arguably be the best decision for Mercedes going forwards, especially seeing as they'll be running a new car that both Hamilton and whoever his teammate may be will have to get used to. But let's roll that one back quickly. Neither Lewis Hamilton nor Valtteri Bottas have been signed for 2022 yet, so why are we all so sure that Bottas will be the one to make way for Russell? Well, the obvious answer would be that Hamilton is still taking the fight to Red Bull, while Bottas has generally been a bit shit. However, as is the theme with this video, things aren't quite as simple as they seem. George Russell proved in Sakir that he was a true team leader, so putting him alongside Lewis Hamilton could cause a few more problems than it would solve. Sure, Mercedes would probably be more competitive, but they can't risk having a repeat of Rosberg and Hamilton's relationship. Bottas hasn't yet stood on the top step of the podium this year, but that doesn't mean he didn't deserve to. Take for example Monaco, where Bottas was a long way ahead of Hamilton's pace and presenting himself as a genuine contender for the lead of the race, before he became the victim of the world's longest pit stop. Literally. Sure, we can't ignore the fact that Bottas is yet to outscore his teammate in a race, but then again we have to remind ourselves that Bottas isn't there to beat his teammate, nor even challenge him. He's there to pick up solid points behind Hamilton and pick up the scraps should he have a bad race. Admittedly, he wasn't there when he needed to be in Baku, but that was the only race so far that he wasn't at least near to Hamilton points-wise. 5th in the championship doesn't truly reflect the quality of season he's having, but with all that said, it still seems that he's less strong this year than last. Moving back to that driver dilemma, George George Russell has proved his maturity many a time already, so I could just be worrying over nothing and George Russell could be quite happy playing the Bottas role until Hamilton leaves. But let's say he replaces Hamilton next year. What happens then? Well, if that was the case, it would make the most sense that Bottas remains with the team for another season, this time to play his part in taking Russell to a championship. But that's not to say that Bottas would automatically stay in that case. Mercedes admittedly don't have much choice in terms of who could realistically replace Bottas in this eventuality, as Esteban Ocon has just committed to Alpine for another 4 years, so let's have a look at who their options are. Firstly, we have Nikita Mazepin. His resume includes 15 spins in 8 races, and he once drove a Mercedes Formula 1 car. He's also very rich, but other than that, a poor option. Next, we have Romain Grosjean. By 2022, he will also have driven a Mercedes Formula 1 car, and he has a lot more experience than Nikita Mazepin. His commitment to IndyCar makes it a challenge to draw him back into F1, however, rendering him a poor option. Finally, we have Frederik Vesti, who is currently a member of the Mercedes Driver Academy. This is quite possibly the worst option, however, as Vesti does not have the super license points to drive an F1 car, nor will he have enough points at the end of this year, even if he wins the F3 championship. Generally, a poor option. So that's that then. 3 drivers with some sort of Mercedes experience, none of whom will really fit the bill for Mercedes' number 2 driver. This then means that Mercedes either keep everything the same into 2022, sign George Russell instead of Bottas and risk a repeat of 2016, or sign George Russell instead of Lewis Hamilton and risk neither driver performing as well as they could. So as you can tell, choosing drivers is a lot more complicated than first meets the eye. This, combined with the fact they have to get things right on the development side, contributes to a very complex situation that Mercedes are currently in. Personally, I highly doubt that Mercedes will replace Lewis Hamilton, and all the rumours point to Russell replacing Bottas anyway, so I think it's safe to assume that Hamilton isn't going anywhere regardless of who his teammate is. As for Mercedes' 2022 performance, I think we can expect a similar dominance to what Red Bull had in 2010 to 2013, with them probably having the best car, but with stricter regulations meaning they don't necessarily have the best car every single weekend. Hopefully that's made sense. I feel like I've started waffling a bit, but it makes sense in my head at least. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video, and of course I should mention that I don't work for Mercedes, so obviously I don't know for sure what's going on, but I feel like I've made some pretty good guesses. This is an open discussion though, for sure, so if you have a different guess or you know something I don't, then be sure to leave a comment on this video. I haven't responded to as many comments recently, so I will try and respond to as many as I can on this one to make up for it. However, if you don't want to bother with a comment, then that's okay. Just leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more from me, then don't forget to subscribe if you aren't already. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all later. Bye.